Something is shifting around the Warriors, and for once it's bigger than rotations, bigger than one more big man, bigger than the usual deadline names that get thrown at us every year. It's the sense that this front office, this ownership group and this core around Stephen Curry are lining up for one last monster decision that either locks in the most ambitious ending of this era or tells the league they're done swinging at the top shelf. This is Warriors News Fan Report. I'm here with you like always, talking as a real fan who lives this team every day, bringing you serious updates, verified context, and grown man speculation about our Golden State Warriors. And tonight I'm going to walk you through the scenario that sits above all the minor trade chatter, why the organization keeps being linked to the biggest names in the sport, what their moves over the last months actually signal, how the landscape in Los Angeles has opened a narrow but real path, and why one specific rumor that everybody joked about a year ago has quietly moved from meme to conversation you can't completely dismiss if you're paying attention to how this league works. I'm not going to throw the headline at you in the first 10 seconds because this story doesn't start with a name. It starts with a window. At 4-2-5-4, whatever the exact record is when you're watching this, we see a Warriors team that can still punch with anybody on the right night. Steph is still bending the floor. Jimmy Butler III brings that two-way edge and playoff wiring. Draymond Green is still the emotional and defensive brain of this whole operation. Jonathan Kuminga has finally been treated like a core piece with a serious deal. Al Horford arrives as the veteran big who understands how to play next to stars. And the system, when healthy, still looks like real basketball, not nostalgia. But peel it back. And the truth is right there. This roster is old at the very top. It's expensive. It's living inside the harshest version of the new CBA, and there is no guarantee that running it back with tweaks is enough to carry Steph to one more banner before the mileage does what mileage always does. Joe Lacob has never hidden who he is. This is an owner who has always believed Golden State should act like a destination, not a market that waits to see what falls off other people's tables. Mike Dunleavy Jr. and this front office have been in every big star conversation. We know from credible reporting they've called on almost every all-star that looked remotely available and every move they've made recently, keeping Kuminga, adding Horford, maintaining picks instead of dumping them blindly. Keeps them in position for something bigger than a backup center. To understand why this something bigger now has real shape, you have to look at the other coast of our rivalry triangle, the Lakers. That franchise traded Anthony Davis, hit reset around Luka Doncic and LeBron James, sold a new version of their project, then saw pressure spike immediately. LeBron has formally opted into his $52.6 million for 2025-26, locking in a historic 23rd season in the league and publicly signaling he's here to compete. But there's another layer. He's now operating year to year, with his future beyond. That open, with his camp always extremely intentional about leverage and legacy. At the same time, there have been reports over the past 18 months that the Warriors have picked up the phone multiple times to ask the only question that really matters in this kind of era. Is there any universe where LeBron James in a different jersey is discussable? And if so, what would it take to pair him with Stephen Curry before both careers hit the final straight? A year ago, everyone laughed that off as talk show content. Then we heard about that short window before a previous deadline where ownership-level conversations actually happened. More recently, we've seen detailed reporting that Golden State has kept that line warm, never in a reckless way, but consistently. Enough that people plugged in around the league stopped treating it like a complete joke. Put that next to a Lakers situation where they've tied themselves heavily to Doncic as the long-term anchor, managed delicate cap decisions, and know that LeBron, as great as he still is closer to the end than the beginning, and suddenly there is at least a theoretical path where both sides might one day look at each other and see an opportunity instead of a wall. Now we land at the point where I say the name out loud, not as clickbait, but as the natural answer to the question. If the Warriors are going to make one last insane, calculated, all-in move to weaponize the final years of Stephen Curry, there, Is nothing bigger and nothing more decisive than LeBron James in a Golden State Warriors jersey. Before we even talk about emotions, let's treat this like adults and look at the basketball side. On the court, even at 40+, LeBron is still one of the smartest engines in the game. 25 points, near 8 boards, near 8 assists. Strong. Efficiency. Still drawing multiple defenders when he turns the corner. Still punishing mismatches in the post. Still one of the best decision-makers in advantage situations. The Warriors, with Steph as gravity, Jimmy as two-way wing, Draymond as connector, and Kuminga as slashing athlete, already have structure. What they don't always have is a second primary who can both initiate and physically punish switches. For an entire series while keeping your half-court offense out of those dead pockets we've seen in some playoff exits. Plug in a locked-in LeBron as point forward in this system, and every possession becomes an IQ clinic. Steph flying off the ball with LeBron reading every overplay, Draymond screening and short-rolling into 4-on-3s created by 2 all-time. Playmakers instead of 1, Jimmy attacking tilted defenses instead of having to create from scratch, Kuminga living off cuts and leaks with the best passing duo of this generation finding him. You don't need LeBron to be 2013 Miami. You need him to be the version we just saw, still top tier, but now insulated by spacing, movement, and another MVP-level star who bends defenses from 30 feet. In that scenario, late-game offense doesn't devolve into Steph, please save us off the dribble possessions. You can spam Steph LeBron actions, invert matchups, post LeBron against smaller wings, drag bigs into space, and let their combined gravity generate clean looks, without burning Steph's legs on constant self-creation. Over a full season, his playmaking and size reduce the wear on Steph. In a 7-game series, the combination of their brains makes every coverage answerable. Now, the fit with this version of the Warriors isn't just about highlight plays, it's also about control. LeBron is one of the few stars who can slow the game down, protect leads, manage tempo, and read matchups possession by possession. Golden State's Achilles heel, the last few seasons, has often been sloppiness and volatility. Too many turnovers, too many rushed shots, stretches where experience didn't translate into control. A LeBron-Steph core, supported by veteran role players like Horford, Melton types, plus Jimmy and Draymond, is essentially a supercomputer on the floor. Every young piece, from Kuminga to Podziemski to whoever else sticks, would live in graduate school for winning basketball. For a front office that has already shown it's willing to pay for intelligence and versatility, this is the cleanest possible basketball argument. If you're going to live above the second apron, live there for something that fundamentally changes your margin for error. And yes, I know the rivalry history. I know 2016. I know how weird it feels even saying the sentence, LeBron James on the Warriors out loud. But if we're honest, we've already seen him share a jersey with Steph on Team USA and rave about how natural that partnership felt. We've watched mutual respect publicly for a decade. None of this guarantees anything, but it removes the illusion that it's unthinkable. Of course, if we stop here, we're doing fan fiction, and that's not what this channel is. So let's talk cost and risk. To make any version of this real, you're dealing with a $50 million+ salary slot, a no-nonsense agent, a proud franchise on the other side, and a new CBA that punishes every dollar of inefficiency. Any framework means sending out serious pieces, matching. Money from high-level veterans, likely picks, maybe a blue-chip young player depending on timing and leverage. You don't get LeBron James for filler and hope. The Lakers, if they ever hit a point where moving him is on the table, will want to reframe their future around Doncic with depth and flexibility, not hand their fan base a white flag. The Warriors, if they push, are publicly telling Steph and the world, we are all in. We are comfortable living with an old, very expensive core because we think 2 of the smartest players ever can win us the toughest games. That means accepting the age risk. You could end up with a roster where Steph, LeBron, Jimmy, Draymond, Horford are all on the wrong side of 34 at the same time. One injury and your cap is locked. Nobody in this league is ready to handle what happens when a fan favorite turns into a financial earthquake. And that's exactly where we are right now with Austin Reaves, and with one specific team circling his name in a way that can't be ignored anymore. This is Lakers News Fan Report. I'm here with you like always, speaking as one of you, directly to you, to the people who watched Reaves go from undrafted curiosity to closer in staples, to Luka's running mate when everything else was broken, and now see his name ligado a Detroit como se fosse só mais ativo de planilha. It's not random noise, it's not a Twitter fantasy. It's a pressure point that exposes whether this front office is prepared to live with the cost of its own success or ready to reshape the core before the bill arrives. And I want you to feel this right from the start. What I'm bringing you here isn't hysteria, it's context. It's contract reality. It's his insane production in this new phase. It's how the Pistons situation fits too well with the profile of a guard like him. And it's what all of that means for the identity of the Lakers with Luka Doncic at the center of everything. When Reaves exploded in stretches without LeBron and even without Luka, it stopped being a cute story and became a negotiating weapon. A guard in his prime, dropping efficient 30 pieces, running pick and roll with patience, punishing switches, attacking closeouts, hitting step-backs, drawing contact, creating for teammates, holding up as a competitor on the defensive end, handling big moments under the lights of Los Angeles. That guy does not live permanently on a friendly contract. Everybody in the league knows that option year is just a bridge. Once we hit that point, you're either talking about serious money from the Lakers or serious money from someone else. And serious money for one player doesn't scare big franchises by itself. What scares them is what comes attached: timeline, flexibility, the second apron breathing down your neck, the need to keep enough depth and size around Luka so he's not dragging thin rotations in May. That's where Detroit walks through the door, not as a meme but as a logical suitor. The Pistons are a franchise que cansou de perder, stuck between half-finished rebuilds and wasted potential. They've been searching for stability next to Cade Cunningham, for another ball handler who can play on and off the ball, think the game at a high level, and bring playoff-ready guts to a locker room that's seen too much losing. When they look at Reaves, they don't see just a shooter or a secondary guard. They see a ready-made solution to multiple problems. Someone who can run their offense when Cade sits. Someone who can close games with decision-making and shot creation. Someone who's already proved he doesn't shrink on big stages. You add to that the possibility of acquiring his bird rights, controlling his next deal instead of chasing him in a bidding war. And suddenly the idea Austin Reaves in Detroit stops sounding like clickbait and starts looking like professional planning from a front office desperate to turn the page. From their side, it makes all the sense in the world. From our side, it's where the tension gets real. Because you can't talk about Reaves as if he were just salary. On the floor, he fits perfectly with what the Lakers need around Luka. A guard who can take initiator reps, let Luka work off the ball, attack mismatches without freezing the offense, play horns, delay, Spain actions with intelligence, and hit catch-and-shoot threes when defenses load up on the star. You don't just find that down the street. He's become the connector who makes weird lineups functional, the guy who can bridge bench-heavy stretches without the offense collapsing, the one who calms possessions that start to go nowhere. And every time he steps up in absences, he reinforces the same truth. If you let a player like that walk for nothing, you don't only lose production, you lose leverage. That's exactly why the conversation around him is so heavy. You're not just deciding if he's worth X million a year, you're deciding if you're ready to either lock him in as a pillar or turn him into a package that actually transforms your structure. Neutral moves are not on the table here. That's where Detroit's name hanging in the air becomes dangerous and interesting at the same time. Because if there's any team with young size, physicality, and future picks that could try to tempt the Lakers, it's a team like the Pistons. They can dangle big bodies, vertical threats, front court pieces that fit around Luka's game, plus draft capital that reopens doors for future star trades. And if you're a serious front office, you don't hang up the phone just because a name is beloved. You listen, you measure, you stress test your convictions. The question is never, do you like Austin Reaves? Of course you do. The real question inside the building is, given what he'll command on his next deal, is our best path to a title window with Luka built with him as a max or near-max co-star? Or is our best path using his peak value to solve multiple needs at once? That is the cold layer nobody likes to say out loud, but it's the one that defines champions. Now, I want to bring this closer to you because I know what Reaves represents emotionally. He's not a free agent mercenary. He's a development success. One of the very rare cases where the Lakers didn't just sign a ready-made star, but actually grew one of their own from the margins into a centerpiece. He carries that Laker-made feeling that fans haven't had often in this era. Losing that would sting in a way spreadsheets cannot measure. You'd feel it in the stands, in the jersey sales, in the identity conversations on every show. And precisely because that bond is real, any scenario where he ends up in Detroit has to be judged under the harshest possible light. If the Pistons come calling with a half-hearted package of incomplete prospects and filler, that's an insult. And the answer is simple. No. If they come with something that doesn't clearly keep the Lakers at least as competitive around Luka, no. If it doesn't give size, rim protection, switchable length on the wing, or serious control over draft picks that can unlock the next big trade, no. This is not about escaping his contract. It's about recognizing that a player of his caliber is your strongest trade chip if and only if you decide to go that route. And that's where the climax of this whole story lands. In the current context, with the way he's playing, with the way he fits, Reaves to Detroit only becomes a real conversation if the return package is so strong, so multi-layered and so aligned with Luka's prime that you can look at the roster the next morning and say, without lying to yourself, we are closer to a title than we were yesterday. Anything below that and you shut it down. You don't flirt with almost good enough when you're talking about the guy who saved offensive possessions, stabilized closing lineups, and proved he can carry stretches of the season. You either get blown away or you hang up the phone and double down on your own work. Because trading a guard who orchestrates, scores at high efficiency, embraces big moments, and already understands this market's pressure just to avoid paying him would be the exact kind of short-sighted decision that drags a franchise for years. The type of move that looks clean in a spreadsheet on day one and vira fantasma toda vez que você vê o cara decidir jogo em outro lugar. We've seen this league punish teams that couldn't recognize the difference between an overpaid role player and a core piece entering his prime. And everything Reaves fez até aqui aponta para esse segundo grupo. When you give away a player like that for a package that doesn't truly match his impact, you're not just losing a name, you're ripping out chemistry, continuity, trust, and sending a message to every guy no vestiario that performance doesn't necessarily guarantee commitment. That's how you lose a locker room quietly, not with one quote, but with one choice that mostra que o front office teve medo do próprio sucesso. And I'll be clear with you here one-on-one, no sensationalism, no fake it's imminent energy. At this moment, there is no official agreement sending Austin Reaves to the Detroit Pistons. Nothing signed, nothing escondido atrás da cortina. If it doesn't do both, it doesn't happen. Simple. No half measures. No maybe it works. And that's the point I want to tattoo in your mind as a fan that thinks the game, not just feels it. Just because other teams are circling, it doesn't mean the Lakers are weak. It means the Lakers finally hold something other people want badly enough to overpay for if given the chance. That's power, not crisis. And you know I'm not going to finish this without pulling you fully into the conversation, because this channel exists to treat Laker fans as part of the thinking, not just the audience sitting in the dark. So I want your take in the comments, and I mean it. If a serious offer from Detroit actually landed on the table, not rumor, not speculation, but a real proposal with young front-court talent who fits Luka's timeline, plus picks that reshape the cap sheet and the depth chart, would you accept seeing Austin Reaves go in the name of maximizing Luka's prime and long-term stability? Or for you, is Reaves already part of that non-negotiable core that you ride with and figure everything else out around him?